So, Paul, we generally, like to know a little about you. So we start with, where did you get your schooling? Where did you go to college? How were your growing up years?
So I'm an armed forces kid, grown up all across the country. Like predominantly North India, a little bit of Mumbai and Pune kind of places, but predominantly North India. So school was like I've been to 7 schools in my growing years. I finally completed my schooling at Springdale School in Delhi, and then I went on to do my engineering in industrial and mechanical from Delhi College of Engineering, post which I went to IIT for a post-graduation and in technology management, and then I joined the workforce. So I joined GE for 1 year and then went on to switch to the internet industry. It was quite a switch because I was in finance in GE, and then I realized that while I had majored in finance and technology in my MBA, it was technology which was exciting me to do something around that and not finance really. So I made a very early U-turn in my career. 1 year down the line, I made a switch to the internet industry and joined Rediff.com in sales. Spent 2 years with them, then switched over to Yahoo. And then I spent a good part of my internet career with Yahoo. I worked with them for over 7 years. And in the sales function, just continued to grow myself and learn more and contribute more. And thereafter, Fashion and You, and thereafter now Startup Superfuel of 5ideas. So that's in short what I've done.
So if I, go back, because I'm also from Delhi College of Engineering. So were you based out of the new
Kashmiri
campus?
Gate, no,
Kashmiri
no.
Gate one, okay.
We didn't get the
new one.
No.
Yeah, I guess you were
actually
lucky.
we were in our final year when the move had started happening.
Oh, okay.
So the freshers went there, but we stayed back.
It's actually kind of good because
where did you go?
I went to the new campus, which is in Rohini.
You missed a lot of Delhi College of Engineering.
Yeah. So we used to actually come over for practicals in Kashmiri Gate.
Yeah.
So anyway, like you said, so from industrial engineering to financial analysis. So
So I'll be very frank. It's not like industrial engineering was. I went into an engineering course more because I thought that was so. This is a frank session, and I'm going to say it like it is. I think I'm very clear. So I was a decently bright academic student, and there were 2 choices: medical or engineering. And in our family, everybody's kind of excelled at these professions, and so even in my role models inside the family, there was only these 2 choices, and I took biology, and I said I want to be a doctor, and in my first lab practicals, I just couldn't handle the mice dissection, and so I just went to my principal and I said, I'm sorry, I need non-med. Right? And she said, but you always wanted to be a doctor. And I said, no, I just need non-med, right? And I took up non-med only because I couldn't handle medical, the whole thought of surgery and all of that kind of issues. So why I'm giving this background is that not everything, when it looks looks on a curriculum vitae, looks very planned, but it isn't. So I went into non-med. Now that I'd taken non-med, I had options like BCom honors or engineering, or so I placed my bets and I said, okay, I want to get that was a conscious decision. I took up engineering because I wanted a 3-4 years of any education which would help me expand my mind as a basic graduation course. And when I looked at my options, going to a Stephens or going to a LSR for economic honors versus an engineering degree, I felt I'd learn more. I went into industrial engineering because in the competitive examination, my marks could only get me industrial, right? That was the last choice out of the, so obviously I would have loved to do computers, I think, but I went and did that. So, so there was no, but I think what engineering did was very clearly it broadened my ability to think, broadened my ability to apply myself to so many more disciplines. And what I was clear was that if I don't finish my education, I was dying to get into the workforce. That was something that was clear. And there also had a choice. I could take 2 years, 3 years of work experience and then do an MBA. And I just decided, no, let me just get it done. I didn't clear my CAT, and I hadn't applied anywhere else because I was so sure I was maxing the CAT scores that I would definitely get in. But I didn't make it. And when I didn't make it, I just decided that I'm not going to waste a year. I do want to quickly do the next education either overseas or in India. And what I ended up doing was IIT had opened up their MBA program. And because it was a new program, their dates were still not closed of applying. I had not applied anywhere else, right, thinking that Ahmedabad is just waiting for me, right? So then that's what happened. I mean, I sat for the competitive examination that IIT had. I got a great score. I loved the faculty there, and I said, I'm going to take my chances, even if it's a new course. I anyways wanted to do something around technology, so I went into a dual specialization in finance and technology. And again, I would say I took up finance because, you know, one leg in the risk-free zone and one leg. So, you know, I love the pivots that I keep recommending everyone, keep doing pivot, one hand, one feet. So I said, okay, if technology management doesn't give me a good job and I don't find it exciting, at least finance will give me a good job. And that's how, you know, and then GE picked me up from campus and I really loved the company for a year, and but then realized that function was not my cup of tea. So all in all, I don't think any of the decisions that I made at that time were superly considered. I just knew that I was just taking one step at a time. What I knew was that I want a really strong professional, you know, growth chart, which is self-satisfying.
So, you know, from again, from GE to Rediff, you just completely changed the vertical.
No, so that's what I said, because I realized that, so I realized that I could do much better when I did more collaborative work with people rather than analytical work behind a computer. And in finance, what happens is that while it's terrific, I mean, my husband went and made a really great career out of finance in GE, but in finance, I realized that for a good few years, I would remain in an environment, at least for the next 5-7 years, where I wouldn't be able to work in teams which were doing interesting projects or business defining changes. So at that point, I realized that instead of applying myself on spreadsheets, I would rather be in places where I could collaborate with people, human beings, and work. And that's when a specific mentor that I've always reached out to, when I met him, he said that you're built for sales. You know, you should be in selling. And I said, no, but I want to be a CEO at the age of 30. So he said that well, the fastest way to be a CEO at the age of 30 is by making sure you're bringing in the money to the company. So I said, okay, then I'm going to try this out, and that's how I went into sales. So internet was because I was fascinated by internet, and I wanted to see if internet was a real industry where you know, because at that time in 2000, I'm talking about 2000.
.com burst.
Yeah, I mean, the day I got in, few months down the line, but at that time, this was even today, I mean, it's a sunrise industry. You get to do so much more. It is super exciting. Everything is so, innovation is happening at a speed no other industry can experience. And that was thrilling for me. And hence internet and sales, because I got a guidance which I kind of thought was right. But over the years, I think that was a great piece of advice, because I did do some of my finest work, whatever little I've done in sales and marketing. So
how did you actually select Rediff? And the reason I asked is because Rediff was the only, probably one of the surviving Indian, you know, internet companies at that time.
So you know, two things. One, as a company, Rediff was at that point as a domestic player. I mean, Yahoo had just, I don't remember, but I don't think Yahoo had entered the market. I mean, today we have Yahoos and Googles and Facebooks, and things are fairly exciting in the internet names that are available in the market to join. But Rediff was a blue chip company in the internet sector. That's one. And secondly, some of the management there, like specifically Nitin Gupta, to be precise, He had just joined Rediff from GE to become the CEO and help Ajit with the business. And for me, that was a great sign that some very smart people had joined Rediff at that time, and I thought there was a great opportunity to learn from people who'd worked in big companies and now moving to the internet sector. So Rediff had a lot of people at that time who were moving from traditional businesses, because Rediff could afford them, into Rediff.com to help it take it to the next level. And those years it was a great decision for what I learned in the internet. I would say that I applied a lot of that in Yahoo, but I learned more in those 2 years at Rediff than I did for the next 3, 4 at Yahoo. So I think that.
So how did Yahoo happen actually?
Just the fact that after a year and a half of Rediff, I missed the big company charm. I thought that while Rediff was a great learning ground, I wasn't getting exposure to global markets. I wanted to be in a company which could give me learnings from cross geography learnings, and which was innovating at a global scale. And that's how Yahoo reached out to me, and I bit the bullet. Yeah.
So how was your experience in Yahoo? Because I think you did really well at Yahoo, and you finally went on to become the director for sales.
Yeah.
So how was this whole experience with Yahoo?
Terrific company. I think that when I look at what's happening to the internet space today, I don't think Yahoo was equipped to handle the onslaught of innovation that happened in all of the other technologies that came in front of the consumer. But there's one which is a dissection of Yahoo as a company. So somewhere around the 5th, 6th year, I did realize that Yahoo had lost the plot, was not getting anywhere in social, was not getting much headway in mobile, and had kind of lost the game in search. And so with what was happening in the consumer landscape, at that point I did feel it was a reason to move out of Yahoo. But in the first 5, 6 years, I think that Yahoo did a phenomenal job in India. Though again, India was a very small market for Yahoo globally. But Yahoo did a really good job in India, and some parts of Asia. It was still by far the leading platform for consumers. As a company, it was a really fun place to work. So it was genuinely a work hard, play hard culture. The team bonding was exceptional. The product people that Yahoo had at that time when I was there were truly exceptional. The technology and product people. So Yahoo had the best of, in the years that I was with Yahoo, 5, 6 out of those 7 years, Yahoo had pretty much the best of the talent that was there in the Indian internet industry. Globally, obviously, they had exceptional people, but I'm just saying, in India, my experience, I got an exposure of Asia. I handled Middle East out of India. I got terrific exposure to the Valley. And I also got strong exposure of building a P&L. I was handling a 120 crore P&L. To me, at that age, when I did that, it was very challenging because Yahoo's business in India was 95% advertising and 5% was mobile, and so I was leading the entire advertising P&L. So technically, you would say there was the MD who was handling the product and technology, the product basically, Yahoo India as a product, and I was handling the entire commercial function. So to me, that was great exposure. I got to learn how to manage very large teams in multiple locations. I had my teams in about 9 cities and 2 countries. So I got that experience, and that was really good. Very strong.
Do you think Yahoo at that time rejected Microsoft's bid for acquisition? Do you think it was a good thing from Yahoo's perspective to actually?
It's so easy to expose, they kind of sit and say, was that good or not? I mean, I think that, yeah, if I can only speak for myself, right? If I was in the decision-making chair, I would have taken the offer.
How was it in Yahoo India? Was there any effect of what was happening there? Because it was a very, close to a drama that was happening.
No, so, I mean, effect, yeah, I had search teams under me, and there was a debate every day that if why don't we sell out? We're never going to make it in search. right? And right now we're getting an offer. Like display as a business or just content as a business is not not something that we're going to make a lot of money off going forward, and we don't have a foothold in, like I said, search, mobile, or social. So we should sell out. And then there was the whole, when we finally, Yahoo bought, had that had that Yahoo search and Bing came together. At that point, there was a lot of M&A related impact on teams and all. So yeah, it wasn't like Yahoo India was isolated from what was happening. But yeah, we weren't at the thick of action that was happening in the Sunnyvale office.
So after this, you started fashioningyou.com, and this is the time when you, I think your entrepreneurial genes kind of awakened. So what, forced you to, or what, got you to get into this side of things?
So, Nikhil, I think that I think I am an entrepreneur at heart, because even at Yahoo, when I joined Yahoo, after that, Yahoo had a major let go of people globally. And I joined, and in about 10 days, the company's strength got slashed from 70 people to 9. I was one of the 9 who was there, but only because probably they had hired me because they were intending to fire the more expensive people at that time or whatever, right? So the point is that at that point, with 9 people across the country, just 3 people in sales, from there to what we built Yahoo in India, I would definitely say that it took every bit of entrepreneur in me to sit out of a 2-people office in Delhi and try and build it up $1 million at a time, right? When I joined them, they were $1 million in revenue for a year, annual revenue. When I left them, the business that I was handling was $30 million approximately, right? So in those 7 years, and we had no resources. When a company downstaffs to a level that they leave 9, 10 people in a country, they're basically making a decision that either these guys have to figure out how to make do with the resources that they have. We're no longer investing in India. That was, I don't know what was the reason at that time behind the decision, but they had kind of pulled out from India. Just the fact that we are here and keep some people, some salespeople there, and we'll run the product out of the valley. So for me, from there, starting from $1 million, taking it to 5, then 7, and then, every time it took like running it as a bootstrapped operation, going to your international office, making a business plan that this is what we're going to deliver next year. I need 5 people here. I need these resources. I need you to open up that product for us so that we can monetize it in India. I had thought I had joined Yahoo to be a key member of their sales organization. What I ended up being in a few months was one of the key people who were architecting what we would do to keep this business alive in India when Yahoo globally didn't care if it was, because the way they looked at it is Yahoo Mail served out of Sunnyvale, accessed by so many people in India. They don't need to be in India to deliver those products, right? And the content business was not that great. So for me, at that, like the reason I'm giving this example is because I think I was an equally strong entrepreneur, which I experienced. I didn't know that existed, but I think I did that a lot at Yahoo, whereas what is seen out of my Yahoo's career, even when I reflect on it, only I know what kind of entrepreneurial challenges there were. But otherwise, it looks like a cushy job where you come in with everything set. We changed 6 offices in Gurgaon, and our first office was the kind where we were 2 seats, and we had subletted a part of Subway, right? And we had a Yahoo board outside, and then we had a Bombay office of 7 people, right? This was Yahoo in India, right? After the downsizing happened, and those 2 people office in one of the malls, not malls, one of the business centers in Gurgaon was actually so small that it was mistaken for an internet cafe. And people used to just peep in and say that, can we access our Yahoo Mail here, and we used to say this is an office, right? So, so to me, I think I experienced a lot of bootstrapping, a lot of business case making, trying to keep employees together when everyone had seen that Yahoo had downsized badly, there was no job security, and building it up from there to a strong business in India. That was, to me, that was a great entrepreneurial experience, and that's why when I bit the next phase, when I took up that, to me it was just a natural extension. I just didn't want to go to a highly paid, structured role, which expected me to deliver great performance within a very set boundary. And that is why what compelled me, so when I had decided to leave Yahoo, entrepreneurship didn't happen to me by chance. It was my, how do I say, it was the only option that was left to make it exciting to remain in India, in the internet industry, and yet do an exciting role, right? So for me, because Google offered me a job and I was not interested, it was a very big job in India. They offered me a role in Asia, I was not interested. Because all of these roles, I felt that in those 7 years at Yahoo, in some ways I had done most of those pieces. So for me, the option was either to go to the US or an exciting Asian market, which gave me much different flavor from what I had experienced here, or it was to be in, if I had to be in India, then start something of my own. And I don't think I had the guts to really start something of my own from a perspective of funding, and I didn't have money to kind of bootstrap it and all. So I joined an incubator type of a setup in Smile Group, and thought that was an easy way to get into entrepreneurship and figure out what it takes, and then either that is what's going to keep me, or I'll then become a real entrepreneur, which I think I am today, wherein I did not know when I made this step. When Gaurav and I started Startup Superfuel and 5ideas, we didn't have money, and we were okay about it, and we were ready to take the risk as a real entrepreneur does. So I think I took very measured steps towards entrepreneurship.
So Smile Group, they're sort of like an incubator. So Harish felt they've got this big, a network of products as well, and they've got a big company. So did you had the idea with you at that time, or first you kind of joined them and then you looked at an idea?
So the business model that Fashion and You built in India, that business model was so I had done my analysis in the time I was leaving Yahoo. In those last final 3-4 months, once I had made up my mind that I am going to join, I'm going to do something entrepreneurial, build something in the internet space, a consumer-facing application or business in the internet space. That is what I knew, and then I researched and figured out in what domain do I want to do it. And I thought I wanted to do it in fashion, and I thought that I wanted to do something like Gilt in India. I studied Gilt.com, if you guys are aware, was the largest private sale company in the US. So I studied Gilt, and I studied Bon Prix in Europe, which was again the same business model in Europe. And I felt that if fashion at that point, the thoughts that I had was that if fashion in India has to go online, the first reason people will buy is going to be the fact that they can access those brands in all parts of India, which are otherwise not available in physical retail. And the second is the price savings on big brands. And so with that cue, I thought this was a great thing, but frankly, I didn't know. I mean, it was lying as an article in Time magazine in my handbag. And I just thought, okay, but right now I don't have the funds and I can't do it, and that's it. And then I met Harish Behel, and he was talking about raising funds for this business model, because he had partners in Germany who had done this, who had financed this business model and incubated it in 3 other or 4 other countries. And they now wanted to do it in India. And it just happened that when he spoke to me about it, I said, this is a business model I want to do. So he had funding already ready for it, not by him. He doesn't invest in the business. It's the partners that he has in different parts of the world. And those people were ready to invest a couple of $1 million to give this business a chance in India. And that's how I felt that, okay, this is what I want to do as a business model. If the funding is there and the infra is there, let me go in and try and build this business. And that's what I did.
So, I mean, from bootstrapping, so you didn't really get to bootstrap because you had the money with You
I didn't have to
initially.
bootstrap. I bootstrapped more at Yahoo. But if you look at it from another perspective, that we had seed funding of about $1 million, right? And that money was to last till we raised the proper Series A. And in a consumer business, a 4-5 crore money where you have to set up the whole infrastructure. There was no infrastructure to ride on. You had to set up your own warehouses. You had to set up your own supply chain completely from the vendor's side. And you had to build the business to a certain scale when a Series A could be brought into the business. So I wouldn't say it was luxury spending at all at that time, but yeah, it never was that you don't have any money to run the business. You can't build an e-commerce business out of no money. Either it will be no money, meaning it's not like a product startup, where if you have 30-40 lakhs of friends and family who can come in, or an angel that can come in, you can take the product to a certain level of traction with the level of, with Amazon today available, or and other platforms available, cloud applications available, product companies still can expand. But in e-commerce, you have to invest behind the inventory, and you have to invest behind, it's like a retail business. The only thing is that the channel is selling is online. So everything else is offline. So that takes money to build and time to build. Yeah, but I would say that we had the seed funding required to get to a commercial POC, and which is what we used that seed for.
So Fashion in You was actually one of the the first online retailers, and in fact I kind of remember Fashion in You being the only one at that time, because Mintras and Jabong, they actually came quite after some time they actually became famous, and Fashion in You had a very strong built up a very strong consumer base and a very fast pace. Did you really expect that to happen, given e-commerce and online retailing was pretty new to India at that time?
So no, I think we were pleasantly surprised by what how Indian consumers took to the whole discounting and accessing these big brands in smaller cities of India. These two selling propositions gave us a much better response than we had expected. But we had studied that this business model had taken off in emerging markets like Brazil and in Russia. While I wouldn't say that the wallet size there is equal to the one in India, but we had seen that emerging economies had really adopted this offering in a big way. So we did expect strong success. The bigger issue was that people were not buying fashion online, and could we change that behavior? The issue was not that Indian consumers did not think it was a valuable proposition if you get brands at an average of 40-50% off from the retail price. But yeah, we did expect it to do well. The only thing was we had to figure out whether the behavior would change this fast. And I think we were surprised. And what made it, I think, is just that that we did Fashion in You did genuinely do a good job of sourcing, building the sourcing side very quickly and the marketing side very quickly. And when those two things come about, the growth that we experienced was strong.
So I mean, just out of curiosity, how do you actually get retailers to give out these clothes and all these stuff at a discounted price? I think some of them are at a very high discounted price, more than even 50%. How do you get them to actually do this?
So in fashion, the product cost on an average is not more than 15 to 20% of the final price, which is the MRP that lands into a market. That's a reality. The other reality of fashion is that which 50% of your inventory or more, or which 40-50% of your inventory is going to become slow moving in any season. If there is a very, obviously everyone continues to improve their prediction, and that's what makes a successful brand versus a not successful brand in fashion retail. But that's another hard reality of fashion, that as it gets stale, its price just keeps depreciating. So there are three things that fashion retailers or brands across the globe do. One, they end up doing liquidation at some point, which is the last leg. So just think about it, that 100 rupees product costs them 10 or 15 to make. They try and sell 20-30% of that. I'm just giving a very broad example. It's not like every brand does it this way, but they try and sell 20-30% of that inventory at the MRP. Then they start discounting in some form. Discounts can happen within the season. Some racks in a store are on discount and some are not. Discounts happen end of season, which are higher. Discounts happen next year. They bring out the same products that they had last year, but they've taken them off the shelves and they pumped that into their store together with the new merchandise. But they're wanting to move this fast, so they're giving a lot of promotions on that. But for the fashion retailer, there is always that 30% of inventory, which they would be just happy to recover their cost. And that's what our business model was playing on. One was that aspect, that give us that inventory, we won't buy it off you. Give us that inventory, we will market it, sell it for you. We will take our 30% commission in the sale, and you give 40, 30, 50% off to the consumer, and you still recover your cost. Sometimes it is that difficult an inventory to move that you are even happy that it goes off at less than what you had produced, but and you know, there's nothing wrong with that inventory. It's some colors which are not moving, some sizes which are not moving, broken sizes now, and you can't put them up in your store because you want that. The store for a brand has an opportunity cost for each placement. If they place a product in which now they're only left with small sizes, they're wasting that space because not enough sale will happen. They would rather, this was an efficient way for them to pull it out of the store, give it on Fashion and You. Fashion and You's promise was, we're going to build a very large consumer base for you. You do a 3-day event with us, sale event with us, and you're going to liquidate 3, 4, 5, 7 lakhs of inventory. For an India-based brand, that was not something they were moving from all their stores in Delhi combined in a month, what we were able to move in 3 days. Now, how does that happen? One, you've got to keep bringing new brands every day so that the consumer has a reason to come in every day. So we used to make sure our sourcing teams were bringing flash events, as we call them, 3-day sale events from brands, and every day the lineup of brand events was changing. So the consumer had a reason to, we were not spending on remarketing except the mail shots, the direct mailing. There was no other form of reminder that the consumer needed. They were waiting for the next day's sales always. They would come in, they knew it was limited inventory. It's not like you'll get all the sizes, all the colors, and you'll get every item would have 1 or 2 or 3 units behind. So the consumer has an impulse to purchase it quickly, because if she likes something and it's at a discount and she's liked it, she really doesn't care that it is this season, last season, why is this purple slow moving. She doesn't care because she likes that purple, and there are only 2 units, so she makes a quick decision, quickly buys. There is no comparison shopping time she has, because if she doesn't buy, someone else has already picked it up. And that phenomenon, that whole bargain hunting phenomenon, I think women globally love it. Indian women love it even more. And that picked up. I mean, that was it. I mean, if there's one sold out which would come on one item, everything around that item, the next 6 items would also get sold. So we were obviously onto something which was basically the human psyche of discounts, bargains, and then the whole thing that sitting in Ambala or sitting in Bhubaneswar, you didn't even have these brands there. So that was a big reason why it took off in the tier 2, tier 3 markets. And when Fashion and You became a fairly large consumer play, where every day we would be able to sell 5,000-7,000 orders, right? At that time, it was also a place to introduce a new brand. So it no longer was serving the need for only discounting your brand for the sake of moving stock, which was difficult to move, but you had a new brand. This was a great place to take out your 35 designs, right? And that's where, when the consumer so-called got 70% off or 80% off, the reality is that those brands did not have a real MRP in the offline space. They were building for the Fashion and You platform. right? So they would, if they were saying that their trouser was for 2,000 rupees and they're willing to give it at 500, right? Maybe in the offline space, had they really put up a store and competed with the brands, they may have priced it lesser and then be able to only give a 50 off at Fashion and You. But they were able to do that discounting because there was no comparison. The consumer couldn't know that, is this really for 2,000, because this brand was only showcasing on Fashion and You. So multiple things played on the brand side to discount the inventory.
So the other thing I wanted to ask was, I've heard you say there's been a lot of science behind what Fashion You does. Even the time at which the mailers goes out for a particular fashion event or something like that, there's a lot of thought and there's a lot of process behind that. So what exactly is the science?
So I think the science is in being able to read data and move your, like in retail, where you place the product on your store, what time do you invite the customers in, what time will your mailer be most receptive. We did several tests to define 11 a.m. was a great time. It wasn't like 11 a.m. happened because we thought 11 a.m. is a great time. We did several tests to realize that, you know, people want to get into their workplace, or they want their husbands off from home and then they want to shop, right? So it's one of the two. If you catch them at a time when they're commuting, our sales, people were not coming in. Even the mailer was reaching, but people were not coming, and then people were cribbing that jab tak hum aaye tab tak sab kuch bik gaya tha kind of situation. So that was the optimization on the mailing side, and we continued to optimize it on gender, on demographics like age, the mailers that would go out to, the direct mail that would go out to the teenage girls that we had as customers versus middle-aged women versus office-going working women. We did every day, in a particular day, there would be 20, 25 variations of the mailers which would be going out, which made every consumer see what she had earlier, see more of the kind of things, which is basically what recommendation marketing is. So we did a lot of that. We did a lot of data-related interpretations and optimization of what sale should be shown where on the site for it to get maximum footfalls in. Lot of iterations on what copy sells, how you describe a product. We had 10, 15 variations of how we would describe a product, and then we had tested that out, that what things when said up front make the person make a quick. So in Fashion and You, one of the big things we were constantly optimizing was, how can we, two things we were constantly optimizing. How can we remain in the flash environment to keep the impulse going, but give the consumer a very wide variety on the whole fashion and lifestyle products, right? And on the other side, we were trying to optimize all variables which made the consumer come in and make a very quick decision to purchase, including the bus cart, which had a timer running, right? So, and literally it would, like when we moved the cart time from 30 minutes to 15 minutes, we could actually see customers went through a massive complaining stage, because what they were doing was, we studied this. Why I'm saying is data is so important in e-retail. When you have that data and you're not using it, and another e-retail player has that data and is using it, it's a world of a difference. Offline retailers cannot leverage data the way online retailers can. Things are changing in offline retail, but believe me, they don't know they don't know their inventory reports are so sluggish. We could literally know that yellow is moving right now. Everything in yellow should be moved up front, right? Because yellow was selling at that time. So we used to see top colors selling, sizes selling, and we used to see this in a real-time dashboard. And those kind of things were very interesting for me, because we could actually, we used to say the shop is always alive for us, because always the dashboard was on and we could see what SKUs are moving, what colors are moving, what city is buying a lot, and we could see the spikes that were happening because the local festival is going on, and we could quickly make promotions for that festival only targeted to Mumbai and not expose it to the rest of the audience. So internet gives you an ability to segment customers and read insights so beautifully,
right,
that we leverage that a lot.
So everything going well, why did you leave Fashion You?
Very interesting question. Very controversial as well. So yeah, I say it's controversial because I get asked about this everywhere and everyone's trying to know what was the real reason. Few things, not one, two, three things. And I'll say it in order of priority, that what made me decide. One, number one reason, I gave a lot to build this startup. I did not behave like in the first 2.5 years that I was there. I didn't at any point have a DNA of a professional CEO brought in to run an incubated business, right? I built it up as the founder on my shoulders with my team. And over a period of time, I realized that as the company grew bigger, the stakes for the investors kept getting bigger and my voice kept getting smaller, because my equity in the cap table did not support what role I played in the business. And that's what we keep advising to founders. I mean, this is one thing we would not, now as 5ideas, we don't even invest in a startup. See, your learnings are your own, right? They may not have happened to someone else, but we are very clear that founders need to ensure that even as the company keeps raising more rounds of capital, founders need to have, the founding team needs to have the management control in their favor on the cap table. I've never given out the numbers that I held in the company, and I wouldn't give that out in a public forum, but at the same time, I held equity which you give to, which is, and it's my own failing to read cap tables right. When I joined in, it didn't matter that I had double digits equity, sub 20% in a company which was just incubated, right? I couldn't foresee that series B, C, where would I be? And frankly, what it meant for me financially was not my number one reason to leave, because I knew that I was getting diluted and I was still building a fantastic company and it was giving me great satisfaction. But when my equity holding started also in a way impacting how the investors viewed my opinion versus the promoter's opinion versus their opinion, I just felt that if I had to be a CEO, executive delivering results, I could do it in a Google or anywhere. Why do I need to go through the startup grind to actually, so it's like failure is yours and glory is yours in a startup. I just felt that beyond a point, and now the company's decisions were getting bigger and bigger, and the company was getting slower and slower because the company had to align the promoter, the CEO, the 5 investors we had onboarded, and I didn't have the right board voice to control the direction the company had to take. And a couple of times, big strategic decisions didn't go in the direction that I would have steered the company. And I just decided that before I sit down and see now the continued impacts of those decisions, right, I need to decide if I have to give up my next 4-5 years to startups, building one or helping others, whichever way. I didn't at that time know I was going to get into helping startups, but I just decided it wasn't the right economic value for my time or professional value for my time. And I was reduced to a professional CEO whose voice was heard, but the decision was made somewhere else. And that's something that I wasn't up for. That was number one reason. Financially, even if I was at a very low stake in the company, I would have loved to stay with the company for the next 4 or 5 years, taking it to the right, either getting acquired by a big fashion major or IPOing, I don't know what. But for a company to build to an IPO scale, it couldn't have done it in its flash business mode. It had to add catalog retail. It had to. Fashion and You had a good chance to be what Jabong is, with one part of its business running in flash and one part of its business running in catalog. And it had the ability to be the largest fashion player, e-retailer. I still believe that it had the potential to do that, but certain decisions had to be taken, and they were basic business model decisions which had to be taken at the right time. And I felt weak to be able to control the destiny of the company. So I just felt that if I can continue to sit here and think that how do I manage all the politics and power struggles, or I move on. And I took the decision to move on. And the second reason is that at some level you have to enjoy the relationship you hold with the key people. I had a fantastic relationship with some people. I mean, I had a fantastic relationship at the board level from a relationship perspective. But in Smile Group, the promoter and CEO struggles had become extremely strong in almost all of the portfolio companies. It had become a problem. You saw many CEOs exit at that time in the next 1 year during my exit and after that. And it was a problem because I think every CEO had thought they were a partner in the business and they had built it up from the grounds up. But the promoter didn't partner in the same spirit at some level, and I mean, that's why the exodus happened.
So that's why it's probably very important to choose your investors very carefully.
Yeah, partners, investors, ensure that if you are going to want to have the biggest decisions, where strategic decisions remain in your control, make sure that you start out with not diluting more than 20% of your equity in any round, which means that start out by owning 100% of the company, dilute 20% in seed, 20% in A, 20%, and so that by Series C, you're still sitting at 35–40% of the equity within the core management team. What that does is nothing else but the fact that you are able to steer the company that much better. I know that there are examples where they say that jab the company IPO hui, the CEO just had 2%, right? But that also works at times. 9 out of 10 times, that doesn't work. 9 out of 10 times. In my case, that did not work. And the second part is choosing your partners wisely, because ultimately you'll have to go through thick and thin, right? You'll have to go through the good times and the bad times. And in bad times, it's where ethics and character really comes out, not in the good times. And I saw a lot of things at play, which I would never want to have experienced in my professional life. So I decided to move out from that environment itself.
And then you started 5ideas. So how did you meet Gaurav?
So Gaurav is my husband, and I met him at GE 14 years back. And we've had fairly separate careers till the time I took the Fashion and You plunge, after which Gaurav also moved into the Smile Group. And he had moved into the Smile Group to do a fund. His dream has been to raise a fund and invest in companies and build that up. My dream has been to build a company. And when we stepped out of the Smile Group, we had options of really lucrative jobs, and we had the option of starting up on our own a new business. And then that time we didn't think the possibility of starting to morph into investors. We didn't think of that, but the 2–3 months that we gave, sometimes you create a vacuum, and then when you think what you want to do and how different, with what different means can you achieve the same goal, new options come up. I was not terribly excited about any business idea to a level that I would be willing to commit my next 7–8 years building a particular business idea. I wasn't. What I wanted to do was work with a lot of startups, but I wanted to work with them in a way that did not in an incubation mode. I was very clear. I didn't want to be in the face, entrepreneur's face all the time. I didn't want to do an infrastructure play where I'm saying office hai, sab kuch hai, tum aake apni company andar shuru karo or something. I realized that strong entrepreneurs need their freedom. They need their own vision to come true, good or bad, right? And so but I still felt very excited about working in a startup environment, and I didn't want to go to a structured job. Again, the same thing why I left Yahoo with the same reason. And that was like, so the 3 years at Fashion and You, slightly less than 3 years, further solidified that I wanted to be around startups. Gaurav wanted to give a shot at raising a fund. And when we discussed what could we do that we could make both these, and in Fashion and You, Gaurav played a very strong role in the beginning. First 1 year, he handled the whole strategy with me, finance. So while we hadn't experienced each other's work collaboration, our synergies on work earlier, Fashion and You and Deals in You and the Smile environment made us as two individuals realize that our competences are very clearly, we complement each other's strengths and weaknesses very well. And we become a very good team. And we realized that, but as luck would have it, within the Smile group, we finally went into two different, he was in a different company, and slowly the work collaboration continued to decrease. So when we stepped out, we said we want to do something together. That was one. Second, we said that we want to build something around startups, because I said I want to work around startups, and he said I want to figure out how to raise a fund. And we tried to merge these two, and we said, what if we were to raise a seed fund at a stage where startups need, they've just got a certain level of commercial POC done, and they want the next leg of money, a crore and a half kind of money to build to the next stage and try and attract a Series A. We knew we couldn't raise a fund which could bring Series A to the table. Plus Series A, then you have the Sequoias and the Norwest and the Intel, you have the big funds competing for that. The seed stage had a gap. There was no fund which was doing what we wanted to do, which is give financial capital as well as give our time, our experience and our connections to help the company scale with lesser resources and faster to the next level. So that's when we spoke to a lot of startups and we spoke to a lot of VCs. We spent about 3-4 months doing our so-called viability study of what we thought there was a gap in the market. We realized that startups wanted a fund like this, and VC said it will be a great value add if you guys can really pull it off. So then we started with the fundraise, and we did a first close in April. We started investing in April. We did 2 portfolio companies, and now we're investing in a 3rd and a 4th right now as we speak. So it's been, that's how Gaurav and I kind of got together and said, your dream, my dream, and the fact that if we were to find a co-founder, I would have found a co-founder with his skill sets and strengths, and he would have done vice versa. And it's actually true. We wrote down competences, past examples of where we had filled in with each other's weaknesses. We went out for a long trip to the hills and said, because it's a risk, right? You start risking your marriage if you start working together. So we didn't want to take that risk. We have 2 children, and we wanted to be sure that we genuinely, and the reality was we kept saying that the only reason we wouldn't partner is because we are husband and wife, right? Rest everything tells us that this is the co-founder we would find or look for. So, and then if you start looking at the positives, you say you know this person for 14 years, and if you know now the ins and outs, and good or bad, we know our personal, professional, our personal and our financial goals are fairly aligned. So we said, this is not going to be an easy run. Look, Nikhil, we've never been investors before. So it's not easy for us to raise money, invest in startups, and with people, our investors being patient that they need to give it those 2-3 years for the portfolio companies to start generating some returns. We knew it was not going to be an easy walk, and we felt that if we two are together, we can probably make it happen better than we starting up with a stranger for our realization of our dreams. So that's how it happened.
So how would 5ideas actually make money? That is when you get a Series A.
Yeah, so we start taking exits from Series A onwards, right? But it's not like we pull out our thesis is that we don't pull out nobody will let us exit fully, but we start pulling out the capital we deployed and then leave the rest for a Series B. So the thought is that typically for every 10 companies that that get started and get funded, 2 to 3 reach a Series A, right? And our thesis is that by working closely with these companies, giving our cross-industry, cross-functional experience that Gaurav and I have built over the 30 years that we've worked combined, cumulative in the industry, both internet and non-internet, can we increase this ratio from 20-30% to a 40%? And if 40%, 45% of our companies reach a Series A, the fund gives a really handsome return back to the investor.
I really like the name actually, Startup Superfuel. So
yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that ad, Boost is the secret of my energy. Yeah. Sachin's ad, Startup Fuel is the secret of our energy for the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's an interesting, fun, very different DNA. and at least the couple of companies we've invested in, we are thoroughly enjoying the synergy. So yeah, that's great. But we don't co-locate or anything. We're just wherever the companies are, we travel and be with them whenever they need us, and through a regular interaction that we have.
So what is Founders in Heels? I think that is another.
Yeah, so that's an initiative which is going slow. It's not something that we've given a huge amount of. We've not had the bandwidth to give it a huge amount of progress. But it's an initiative which is helping women entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs come to helping them get the access to mentors, networks, knowledge that they need to build high growth companies. A lot of women entrepreneurs are building lifestyle businesses, but very few entrepreneurs are building high growth companies. And I'm just trying to there under the 5ideas banner, trying to see what I can do in that space. So we, wherever women need some guidance, they need to connect with potential co-founders, they need to connect with VCs. We're trying to give it more and more shape with each passing month, but essentially at a very root level, it is trying to help women to found companies and grow companies which are high growth and VC friendly. When I say VC friendly, because you can build a lifestyle, you can open up a boutique, or you can start a little cafe and you can fund it from your own profits over a period of time. You don't need a VC to, you don't need venture capital. High growth businesses are what venture capital looks for. And that's where we are seeing what are the issues that women are not getting into the driving seat of these companies. What is really stopping them? We realize they don't have the same networks as men do. They're not in the same, they're not meeting the VCs that often. They struggle with the technology part because most women don't come equipped with the coding piece. So they always need a strong tech co-founder to make a technology startup.